want to start by actually sort of turning the clock back 5 years, because it was so present in my mind when you were coming this evening, that in April 2020, when the pandemic was really fresh and new and everything was really, really uncertain, you participated in a SAG-AFTRA Foundation panel on Zoom. It wasn't a panel, it was just you, a conversation on Zoom. We had nearly 1,000 people on that Zoom. Was anyone in the room on that Zoom, right? April 2020. It was a really precious time because it was really early days and we didn't really know what was going on, and it really rocked everyone's community, not just ours. And it's no understatement to say that you made actors, 1,000 actors, feel sane and normal and like in community and like we had a purpose.
Right.
And so thank you for that. But also, how has your work life changed since that Zoom?
I mean, COVID obviously started a new way for casting directors to approach, their work and everything. And as you know, like self-tapes and Zoom became the thing we did during COVID. And so it, really enabled us obviously to keep on working during such a crazy time and actually put together like great casts and move forward on projects. Like, it's kind of amazing to me when I look back on it that, we can't, like, I remember Maid, it was like the one we were doing right when COVID started. And this was like a John Wells Netflix limited series. And we like casted soup to nuts on Zoom. And it was like kind of crazy. It was like a crazy process. And so I think there's just pieces of that really ended up facilitating our job in a way that we had never prior. For me particularly, it allows me to, I get to see so many more people. Like, it's just, I'm an overseer, as like, unfortunately, as my office, we kind of, they're like, stop. But it's like, but it's an opportunity to always just kind of keep looking and keep trying to find new faces and new people to bring to things and reimagine people for things. And I think it gives people a lot of opportunity to also partake that, normally when you only have, if you are doing sessions all day, like the old days, the way we originally do it, we would do a session. You do your session all day. Then you'd start, like, let's say you end at like 5 or 6. Then you would rewatch everything and edit it. And then that would be all night. And then after that's when you'd actually do your work. So it was like, you would work till, midnight. And you were only getting to see the number of people that you could fit in those sessions. And so that, kind of blew it open. And for me, in like the best way, I know some people love it and some people don't. It's like I hear a lot of the don'ts, and yet like sometimes when we put out auditions to people and we offer Zooms, they're like, no thanks, or like whatever, but sometimes, but now I think also we're all starting to feel like, and we've been doing it actually, getting back in the room and having that opportunity now that, we can't. It's like for me personally, like I'm still looking for my new office space because whatever. But I have like a facility right by my house that is a commercial facility. So I can just have sessions there. And then it's like beautiful. It's like so much better than my office would have been. But, my old office really wasn't set up to accommodate what I think the new normal should be, with like rooms that are a little more spacious. We're not like this close to each other, like during everything. So, but I think that's really kind of the way it's changed I guess the good thing that came out of it was really kind of changing the way we approach jobs and how we can see people and open it up and give people more of a chance, because when you only get like 2 days, you don't get to really experiment as much as you can now. So, yeah.
And that must have made the fabric of everything richer. I mean, the fact that you're able to spread that wide net.
For me, yeah. I mean, yeah, absolutely. I feel like we had access to so many more people than we ever got to see, just because you physically can't squeeze that many people in. You know what I mean? Like if I wanted to, like if we had a role that was like, we had a week to see it. I could see like 150 people if I wanted. You know what I mean? Like, it just opens it. Not that I'm going to for everything, but like, you just have that opportunity if you're like, I just want to keep digging and looking.
Has it changed your relationships? How has it changed the way you develop relationships in the industry post-COVID?
I don't think anything. No.
Okay.
I think, directors, I think it's opened, I'm sure you've talked to them too, it's opened things up for them when there's such a tight timeline for them and their availability to be in sessions and stuff like that. So I think this takes some of the pressure off sometimes. But now I think most directors are like, if we can do this in person, let's do this in person. But it's nice to know if somebody's in Australia or someone's in New York or London, we can still do it and not rule them out just because they're not physically in LA.
I mean, it's win-win, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because people want to come back to the room, but you still have the advantage of being able to see everybody.
Yeah. And then we still do that step of doing like a callback or a session or something in a room. Yeah. So it's kind of like a hybrid now.
I want to talk to you about Severance because it's such a complex dystopian sci-fi. So when you first started working on that, obviously you have an amazing relationship with Ben Stiller, but when you start working on something like that, how do you break down the script in order to visualize?
Right. So, well, first I'll just read a script, right? And then just kind of like take it in. And then I'll go back and then I'll break it down as to like what I feel like are obviously the most important roles to start with and who's the next round. And I mean, I think on every job, the biggest question and probably the biggest hurdle for everyone from acting to, casting to directing, it's the tone and knowing what the tone is. I think because it was Ben, I kind of had a sense of what I thought it was in my brain. There was a lot. I thought it was really funny when I read it, actually. Like, not like, I wasn't like an office comedy or anything like that, but there was a lot that made me laugh. And so I think when we approached it, I did find myself leaning towards people like maybe more comedic ultimately that could navigate both worlds. I mean, it's such a heavy lift in the show between the innies and the outies and the, and like for Britt, the fake innie and the fake, like it's just a lot of heavy lifting to do. And so finding people who could do this like in a much more like well-rounded way was really important.
And it makes sense that you say that now when we see Zach Jerry, who
Right.
really we knew from comedy, I think.
Right.
And just because you mentioned her, I think Britt, we've already heard you talk about her audition story, but I just feel like you deserve all the awards just for giving that dream role to Britt Lower, who smashes it.
Yeah, she's so good.
Amazing.
They're all so good.
They're all so good.
They're all so good. It's so beautifully written and directed and acted, and it's just such a joy to like watch it.
I want to ask you about, some of those roles where you had some leeway in the second season, like the doctors and some of the people where I probably spread this wider net and found interesting faces that I hadn't seen before. But
like who? Do you remember which character?
Okay, well, I'm thinking about I wrote
like
names
who?
down, so- okay, all right.
Like who?
Well, I want to get to some of the smaller ones, but I'm going to start with a bigger one, right? Because I noticed that Sydney Cole Alexander, who plays Natalie, right, 7 episodes, huge role, and I'm like, she's amazing. I don't recognize her. Straight to IMDb, what's she been in? And I was kind of not surprised because you cast it, but not many credits. Theatre, like she's in Mission Impossible now, but you probably cast her in this before that.
She was in season 1.
But again, it's
Right.
just like she'd just done some theater and she went to the Fame High School, and I'm like, you gave her a big chunk of stuff to do.
Well, I mean, I think that's like what the job is. I mean, I think we just audition people, and the thing is like Ben loves when we find people that have not done things. Like that's his sweet spot. And I can't tell you how many times we've done things and he's like, if he's in, just genre wise, if it's too close to what we're doing, he's like, I don't want it. And so he really loves that piece. So he's very confident to take that risk and not feel like if he sees it in the audition, then he's like, let's do it, versus I'm worried, what if they get on set and they can't do this or can't do that, and so on and so forth. So I think that he's just the good match that way to allow me, and Best in New York to really go at it. I mean, I feel like with Ben, it's like a very safe space.
That's music to our ears.
Yeah.
You mentioned Bess in New York. How do the two of you collaborate? How do you divide it? How does that process work?
Bess, wait, did you ask me how we met?
No, how you collaborate. Sorry.
Oh,
Sorry.
Yeah, no, so she's in New York, so she'll just kind of do I'll do LA and my lists and those kind of things, and then we'll do New York, and then I'll watch things and then just
She just runs everything.
she does that physically, but right, exactly.
So then I'm wondering, with these smaller roles where people are really specific, like the goat people.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So that's also Debbie DeLisi, who I've worked with. I met Debbie on A Serious Man in Minnesota back in 100 years ago, and then we went on the road together for True Grit for 3.5 months and did 10 open calls in the South. And she is a background casting director, I think is the better way to put it than an extras, because she is like an artist, and so all those faces, every single person in Severance is really hand selected. They do on all they make it sound like they don't on everything, but it's very specific. Even the band, that we had to do, oh my God. The marching band, which by the way, I just thought Teddy Shapiro, who's the composer, I was like, you have a marching band, right? And he's like, no. And then I called George Draculis, who's our music supervisor. I was like, you have a marching band, right? And he's like, no. And then I don't know why I even thought that it would just be a marching band that you would just shove in. They have to all have a Severance vibe, and it all had to be put together piece by piece by piece, face by face, instrument by instrument. So there's a lot of minutia in Severance, and every face you see in the background is Debbie really, we did it on Dannemora too. We had real convicts who were really who were in the sewing rooms and the other, that prison or other prisons. She's kind of next level.
I feel like we're always hearing on this stage that this person just did something completely different, which sort of makes you, an actor, think they need to do something different in order to book the role, which isn't necessarily what your instinct. So is it a question if there are two takes, go with your instinct and do something should you purposely try to do something that you think is different or out of the box? What is your feeling? Can you tell?
Every job is different about what the needs are in the scenes. I do think generally the simpler the better is kind of my motto. I think if you're just really playing the truth of the scene, that it should be enough. Once in a while people make a choice that's something maybe I wouldn't have thought of, and that's really interesting. But I think to force it or just to do something crazy for crazy's sake and not really truthful to the scene, I think is not worth. I don't think that would be worth it. Yeah, because even on Coen Brothers stuff, when I used to work for Ellen Chenoweth, and we would, worked on 8 of their movies, and you would think all the auditions would be crazy and whatever, but it's really the simpler the better, because a lot of the time the writing is really lifting you, and they just want to see the truth there.
Was there anything that surprised you this season, or maybe when you saw it as opposed to when you read it and then auditioned it and then you see the final product? Was there a character or a scene or a moment that surprised you?
I feel like Severance surprises me every scene. Seeing it all actualized when it's on those sets and with Jessica, either directing or doing, the cinematography, it's I think everything is such a joy to watch, even though I read it all and I know it's coming. I mean, we went to the finale. They had this big, huge screening at blank, and which I can't remember. They did this big event, and it was 3,000 people. It was sold out, and they did this huge screening of the final episode. And the producer was next to me, and she was a friend, and she was like, did you read the script? Like, she's like, did you read the scripts? Because I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. And then I was like, I'm like, oh my God. Oh, like literally everything was like, it was like I saw it for the first time, but I feel like that's the way I feel when I watch that show. Like, I've never read a single word of the project, I'm just like, it's so fun.
That makes me feel like you really did a good job, actually.
Yeah, or I just literally can't remember anything. One of the two, which is latter is probably more right, but it was really funny.
Is there some sort of network process with Severance that people have to go through, or
what does that mean?
Well, we hear
like a
about
studio approval
testing, or is there some kind of
everybody has to. So it's fifth season and Apple are the two parties on Severance. So once we collectively have our choices creatively with our group, then we send it to fifth season and to Apple for approval. And so, yeah.
Is that's tapes? You're sending tapes, so it hasn't been in person.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
But we go back to that. Is that?
It's funny. I wasn't part of the world of casting where people used to like go like this, like studio execs would sit there and people would come up and audition here and do that kind of testing. So that wasn't really part of my evolution. And so I think like we've never, I guess, really done that. Because even when we test in person, it's just the filmmakers and then we get the tape and then we submit the tape. So I don't know if people still do that old way of doing it. I don't know. Has anybody been to one like that? I don't think so. Yeah.
Great. All right. So now back to some basics, some marketing stuff for actors. So do you have any like top self-taping tips, top tips?
Oh my God, I just swallow in the mic.
Sorry, I waited for you to drink.
So, again, it's like just as long as we can see you and hear you, that's all you have to worry about. Like literally, people do it outside in their cars, wherever it is. To be honest, I don't really care as long as I can see you and hear you. That's it.
Great. What should be on an actor's reel?
Oh, I would think maybe just. That's a really good question. I guess anything you love for yourself, that can showcase some different sides of you that if someone has a question and wants to see more, it would be on there. I'm a big fan of the audition. I have to be honest. Like, I'm just like, if you have like a 10-minute reel that is not up to snuff for you personally, but you're like, I have a reel, like, I'm probably not even I'm just going to watch your audition. And if it's great, I'm going to move you forward. Like, I think that's kind of, because like I'm sorry, I'm like, but I was just thinking like there's so many things that you're dependent on when you put together a reel. Like if it's another show, it's the way they shot it or it's the way they directed you or whatever. So, it might not get to showcase you the way you want it to be, but it is nice. I know I do have a lot of clients that like to look at the reels and see a little bit more if they don't know you already.
Great. Headshots just need to look like you.
Yeah, I think so. Need to look like you. Yeah, just simple. I guess it's just about the simplicity of everything ultimately, which kind of you would think is not the way to do it. But yeah, just look like you.
That's making me think about something else we hear a lot of actors talk about on this stage is sort of being themselves. And I get the sense that some actors, whatever character they're auditioning for, play themselves with the idea that when you want that thing that they are, you'll bring them in, whether it's right for this or not. And it might be right for this, even though it's not written like this. They're just playing themselves. Do you have a take or any advice on that?
I think that like some people are super specific, like you said, like they really are who they are, and like they're not gonna all of a sudden drop into a period piece and like a Jane Austen thing, like it just might not translate. But in the same respect, I think that, like on a show like Fargo, like I think we have a lot of fun taking people who everyone thinks is maybe one thing and letting them get to do something else, because again, you're all actors and hopefully, it's like you'll figure it out. But so I think that in some cases, yes, I think you're right. Like if it'll fit or it's not going to fit, they're not going to be able to go beyond that. But otherwise, I feel like, yeah, there's opportunities to play up.
Great. Social media, any ideas, tips, thoughts around all of it?
Oh my God. Like we were joking, we just did Little House on the Prairie and we were doing the search for the girl. And we were like figuring out, how to market it and everything. And I was like, well, I can put it on my Instagram with my 150 followers, and Rick Messina is my associate, was like, yeah, I have 400. So we were like, together we'll have 500 potential people, of which 20 are my family. But like, I'm not like a social media. I don't use that. I don't use that as my basis for casting.
And do you judge people who do? Like, no, that's not a serious
I'd like
question.
to talk
Moving
about the
on,
following casting directors. No. No, I don't. I think I understand how it matters to studios and how, if there's an opportunity, to put Selena Gomez or Kim Kardashian, who have like, hundreds of millions followers, maybe like there would be an inclination to do so. But I don't think I work on shows that ask for that, to be honest. Yeah.
Swiftly on. But you mentioned that Little House on the Prairie made me think about this extraordinary little girl who plays Miss Huang. And people do talk about kids casting. Is it different? How is it different? Is it different for you to cast kids?
No. I can't speak to like 3-year-olds and that kind of age group, but I think for her age group, which was, even though it's so crazy because she's in college now, but she was like 14, but looked very young. But no, I think kids today are like functioning at a level that is insane, and there's so many good actors, and so we don't change the process around for it.
Great. And then we got to wrap it up. We want to get into the scene work and get everybody on their feet. So quick question. Any advice for actors who maybe don't have many credits and they're just trying to get more experience?
I think it's always important to just kind of keep working that muscle. It's a hard town. LA is, it's like, I'm from Chicago and I was a casting director in Chicago for a lot of years. And then it was such a intimate community there. And I think there was a lot of ability to kind of just stay on top of everything. LA is just sprawling and, it's a tough business in a tough town. So I think it's just important to always just keep doing and engaging on your craft. And I don't know what that means for everyone, if it's taking classes or it's, making your own short film or it's, doing theater or whatever it is, just staying active, because otherwise I think you can just get real, sedentary. Somebody called me a mother of a child that out of the gate got a big role in something, and then that was probably like 6 years ago or 7 years ago. And she was like, he's not working. He hasn't auditioned at all since then. And it was very much like, I need a new agent or I need this or that so I could get it. And I was like, well, I think you should probably get him into classes, and he's going into high school. Like, he should get into the theater program, like take it seriously, like get going, and she was like, everyone does that, and we need this and that. I'm like, okay, bye. But, I think but I was just like, I think there is sometimes an entitlement, and it's just like, no, it's like a biz, unfortunately. Like, I want to make it all like butterflies and ponies, and for all of us, even my job, I'm like, we're making movies and everything, but it is a business. It's a hard one. So I hope everyone does get their day in court, to get to show themselves, Yeah.
Rachel, this has been delightful. Thank you so much.